Right, it's a very cold morning in Bulawayo right now, and we welcome you to episode number 17 of the Screenshot Podcast. As usual, I'm not alone. I'm with my ninja.
Today I'm not your brother.
I tell my brother, hey, it's a cool. Yeah, what's going on, bro?
It's cold and it's wrong.
It's cold and it's wrong. In the words of the great Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, it's very cold in here. It's cold and it's wrong. Yeah. Yeah. How's your weekend, Joy?
I was sick the whole weekend.
Yeah.
Like when I left you on Friday,
Yeah.
I went home.
Yeah.
I got sick and I didn't leave the entire weekend.
And
And I'm only coming out
today. Yeah. I can relate. Now the weekend allowed me to go gallivanting, wearing shorts. Ndambama kotola. Then during the week, that's when it's like, yeah, now these are the consequences of your actions. You know. But look, the show must go on regardless. We're joined here by Hope, Mr. Hope Ndlovu, CEO of Tuvo. You know what? Let me actually let him introduce himself. Yeah.
My name is Hope Ndlovu. I'm founder and CEO of Tuvo. I'm from here, from Bulawayo. I was born, raised here. But I'm more of a global citizen. I'm spend probably half the time outside the country, half the time here locally. But yeah, I'm from here.
All right, yeah. I've always had this joke. I saw it from Suits. Like Harvard alumni, like they always find a way to like slide that into a sentence. It means you're the only person that went to Harvard that's humble. It's like a global joke.
I didn't know that. I would be telling everyone, just
like in the middle of a story, and say Harvard.
Don't worry, you went ahead of me.
I think we need to get another segment when our guests are introducing.
Yes.
So, what's your net worth?
Yeah, what's your net? Exactly. I think that's actually long overdue. So later on in the podcast, we're actually going to talk more about Tuvo. What it does. It's obviously transport and logistics. Actually, like just unpack your vision, your mission, like what you set out to do when you started this thing.
Yeah.
You know, but we'll leave that to the other half of the podcast. It's just kind of funny. And today we're actually gonna do something very controversial. We've never done this before. We don't know how it's gonna end. But we're like, look, let's just address the elephant in the room. We are in the middle of election season in Zimbabwe. As we speak, actually, there's a rally that's going on in Culture Park. It's looking quite packed. That's what I'll say. I won't offer another opinion besides that. But the situation on the ground is that people went out and they showed their support for our president. You know. So, but you know, in as much as we're talking about politics today, we're going to talk about politics more on a global scale. I feel, I stand to be corrected, but I feel like there's a sentiment that's going around in Africa right now, where people are really taking the look east policy a bit seriously. You know, we're going to talk about Niger, we're going to talk about Burkina Faso, we're going to talk about South Africa, we're going to talk about Zimbabwe as well, because we also have, but we strategic ambiguity, whatever. But I always feel like look, I'll speak about our opposition party. Their reluctance to choose a side is in essence choosing a side. You know what I mean? So we're gonna talk about the States, we're gonna talk about the UK, we're gonna talk about Russia as well. You know, but and to kickstart this conversation, Melinda, what do you think? Today I know we're taking a break from talking about Shisha. You know, but I'd love to think that, you know, you have an opinion.
Oh my God! Wait.
You've got an opinion about this. What are your thoughts?
What are my thoughts?
What are your thoughts on this? Yeah.
So, Mina, first and foremost, I want to talk about the rally that's happening right now.
All
I don't know if it has started or not, but Kenya is now packed. We're talking about it. And there's Kumalanga chicken in.
Yes.
Abanye balanda ukudla vele khona phana. If bengise eCountry Park, that's fine. So the thing that kind of worries me and about izinto lezi, ukuthi kudala kwakulama rumors yokuthi you would go to these rallies la lithola i-rice ama-t-shirt and khathesi sesenzele i-chicken in is what's bothering me kuphela zwi.
Well,
And are these people really going there ngoba banjani bafuna ukudla kumbe balokhu zini? They are going to really that they are supporting this political party.
Yeah, actually I have a point. You see, like political rallies really, they're just like a party, you know. In a sense. You just,
So those
like,
are not actual votes.
you have people that go for many different reasons, right? If you invite people for a birthday, not everyone is there for your birthday, right? Abanye balanda ukuzonatha, abanye balanda ukuzogida. Some are there for the congratulatory messages. Some are there to link up whenever water, right? It's like, you know, so a rally, it's and it's akula mali bhatala ukungena. So anyone can go, everyone is welcome. And I actually think that people should actually have a culture. Rally or whatever party, just go and see what are these people actually saying about your country, without necessarily saying you're affiliated with that party or not.
Yeah.
So
But how does it look when you go there? It does not show that you are affiliated with that party, even if
Not
you're
really.
not.
I think it shows that you're a citizen that's interested in the governance of your party.
In a personal-
You can't tell me ukuthi abantu bona laba kugcwele Country Park bonke balezo 2%.
Right.
That's impossible.
Most of those people are probably not even registered to vote, right?
That's
Most
the
of those
honest truth,
people,
yeah.
as a matter of
that
fact,
is-
are actually not even from Country Park,
Yeah.
right? So it's like it's neither here nor there. The numbers are important, and things like that. But like at the end of the day, like numbers is just what they are. They're just numbers.
But you know what numbers can influence decisions about when people see like the drones or whatever, abantu bebaningi, so on, we're thinking ukuthi, so these people are going in a certain direction and it can also influence you to feel that other one is definitely going to lose. Why should I vote? It influences decision making.
Well, you're making a good point there. But like the challenge at the end of the day is that like on the voting booth, you take a voter, you're by yourself, right? You're voting whether with your conscience, without your conscience. But at the end of the day, people are not naive. People are very sophisticated. Right?
Yeah.
Abantu bayakwazi ukuthi khathesi belawo begqoka ama-t-shirt beshaya izilogani besenzani. Tomorrow there will be people abanjani. I'll give you an example, right? Like we all know this, right? When Idi Mnangagwa was actually fired by Bob back then, right?
Yeah.
9 provinces out of 10 actually consented to him being fired, right?
Yeah.
A couple of weeks later, a month later,
Yeah.
all provinces were like, you know what?
It's not so bad.
Go, right?
Yeah.
You get my point, right?
Yeah.
It's like one of those things that before people were saying, I know, Queen, what. Central committees and PF, when the Mshikashe was going on, right? They actually all said Idi should go. No, sorry, Bob should go, right? But just a few months earlier, they said, no, we're having him for the elections next year.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, it's people are complicated. What motivates them? It's self-interest at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Today, I think even if your self-interest is getting a 2-piecer, I think that's fine.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's okay.
Nah, personally, chicken in Telangana. I was telling these guys that I wouldn't personally
so if
go
you get a
there.
t-shirt,
Yeah.
I
you get a
didn't know
nice
that
t-shirt,
they're giving them
whether
chicken.
you're going to be wearing it as a pajama later on or not, right? And chicken in and whatever. Right, that's all you get, and for some people, and honestly, for some people, that's as much as they'll ever get from this.
Which is
political
also
parties.
so sad.
No, but the thing is,
T-shirt.
no, what I wanted to say is, to some extent, people that are going for this rally, let's say rallies generally, whether it's the ruling party or it's the opposition, people that go for rallies, to some extent, they're exercising their civic duty.
Exactly.
Yes.
Because they're like, no, I'm interested. I mean, whether I'm going there for his keeper or I'm going there for chicken, and it's like, to some extent, like, what are these guys saying about the next 5 years if I vote for them? You know what I mean? So it's just that Slayer, you know, look, how many jokes have you heard since the times of Vugile up to now, people laughing about rallies and so on. But that's what matters. And usually people that are saying this are people that don't go for rallies. We're here.
Yeah.
For example,
but we vote
I follow Hopel, you know. He's not going for any rallies as far as I know. You know, all this like is one thing I always tell people is that Twitter is not a constituency. The conversion rate for you to get people on Twitter to do what they're saying on Twitter on the ground is very, very low. You know what I mean? So I think these people, these brave men and women in
Who
Country
woke up
Park
very
today,
early.
who woke up very early and braved the cold. Like Melinda, if we were not recording this podcast today, we would be in bed, not together, of
What
course.
you
But
said, we would be in Country Park, and I'm like,
oh yeah, I mean, if we're told that
Yeah,
there's chicken in, because get $1, it's not but there's people that brave the cold, and yeah.
maybe they're brave in the cold. Oh, balambile. I'm just saying.
But you couldn't know chicken it's a Country Park, fam. You know, but
Politics.
yeah,
That's how you win people over. Right? Yeah.
But it's interesting times that we are in right now. Yeah, I personally think Thuli Ncube is gonna win. Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not. This is not me pledging confidence
Is
or
not running uncontested?
Well, not yet. I mean, of course, there was a matter that I just settled at Supreme Court.
Yeah.
But like,
it's yet to be settled.
Yeah, like the reason why I'm saying, I mean, it's neither here nor there. Like, Country Park is actually like quite a big it's the probably
It's important.
the fastest growing.
Yes.
Like,
Its own city.
And what you find out is that personally, like in my own experience with people from Country Park, is that there's some level of disillusionment, right? Like there are a lot of places that are developing infrastructure, water, electricity, all of these things, right?
Yeah.
That other people in the city are actually getting, but they're not, right? So could that be points from Thuli Ncube if he's coming up with better solutions for those things?
Absolutely.
Perhaps. But at the same time, right, like this is still an urban area, right? And opposition parties in general, like they've always, voted for whether
Zimbabwe,
it's CCC or
yes,
it's MDC or it's ZAPU. The thing that people don't actually recognize is ever since maybe the 40s, Bulawayo is a protest city. Whoever is in power, doesn't matter who it is, we just don't like them.
Okay. Yeah.
We just don't like them. Like if you think about railway strikes like in the 50s and 60s when Nkomo were organizing them and things like that, right? It's like it's saying whoever is the authority, we are just not moving in that direction or moving in the opposite direction.
Okay.
So as a way your opposition party tomorrow that's probably stronger and whatever or different from this one, right?
Yeah.
They will most likely have an upper hand than, And same thing with Harare and the likes. They're just like places where people are just like saying, whoever is the authority. You'll be surprised. Let's assume the opposition party wins the presidential election. I swear the next 5 years, Bulawayo will be voting against that.
Okay, yeah, that kind of makes sense.
The world, Trevor, no joke. The world.
We'll always just go the other way.
What I think though, when it comes to Country Park, I mean, as people who are self-serving, if someone as powerful as Thuli Ncube comes into your community, now I'm being like saying it's Tabangela Minan, Shalendaweni Engela Magezan, Agula Manzan. You see how he's the one who's helping fix the road and the new Vivi road. These are things that I'm looking at, that I'm seeing, and to say we're empowering, I kind of feel like the chosen one, and is promising to bring change and stuff like that. And Mina, I'm the one who's staying at Country Park, and you guys, Lina, Elishala, wherever you are with water, you can't really say, don't vote for this person, it's the wrong party. I don't think I'll be thinking of it as a party, but as a person who's powerful and who's promising to make change in our community, roads, Wi-Fi, guys, that you do.
True.
So if we're self-serving like that, and it comes
which
into our
is
community,
the point that I was getting at. Which some of these people and zoned. But when you then look at what they've done, I mean, sure, the truth is they have the resources. They do. But when you're on the ground, and if you now think like, now Kulapa, like, my guy, please vote for me. I'm now thinking, all right, what has this guy done? For example, a few weeks ago, on this very podcast, we had a guy that is a product of that innovation hub that Raj Modi did.
Who was that?
That was the Shona Prince, I think that was his name.
Oh, Real Shona.
Real Shona, sorry, Real Shona. And that's another guy I think is gonna win. Honorable Raj, we see you. And then now with Thuli Ncube, it's actually a bit more. I think his chances are higher because the truth is, in Country Park, he's done a bit more than what his opposition is offering.
Actually, that's debatable. Like, okay, the other thing is this, right? I think part of it, like when you talk about civic engagement, right?
Yeah.
It's part of it is, I think, sometimes I would say it's willful ignorance of what the job of a member of parliament actually is, right? Member of parliament, the job is not to build roads or to build schools. their job is actually Narare in Parliament. They coming up with bills and voting for things.
But do we know that?
Right. Yeah,
I mean, we know that.
Do we know that?
actually
the
fix
voters-
roads and things like that, right?
The
It's
councillors.
councillors and local
It's the
authorities.
councillors, yeah,
right?
that's true. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, you actually see Uti. I'll give you another example. This is something that happened also like last month, right?
Yeah.
There's the whole Mavoko thing. What's his name? Scott.
Yeah.
Swahili, right? I mean, like, I personally, of course, we're not. We I don't know the facts of it. I'm just following what everybody's saying.
Yeah.
People are saying that he spent $1 million, right, to bringing Floyd Mayweather to Zim.
Well,
Right.
then people started comparing what he could have done with that million.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Because
Alright.
at the end of the day, right, it's like, as a member of parliament, it's not your job to build schools. It's not your actual job to do any of that. So you can say, I know, but like, well, you could have taken this money and done this with it. And I'm like, no, actually, that's not actually part of the job description of the job that is applying for.
Yeah.
Right? Members of parliament, all they just basically have to say is, look, right, like, I'm going to advocate for policy A, policy B, policy C. There's a problem with Umthetho nje, there's a problem with maybe or like currency things or whatever it is, right? And then move with those policy positions and campaign with those policy positions. Development on the other end, really, and just not sort of development, and there are so many stakeholders, man. There's local authorities, there's Ministry of Transport, there's Ministry of Industry and whatever, there's OTTF, Emakaya, Ngali, there's there's all these different stakeholders, right? Even if you actually want to advocate for they'll tell you, okay, like but then we have other priorities or other roads that we
All
need to
right,
build.
yeah.
And
Fair
that
enough.
road may not be built for as the examples guy since since Unkomo Sachama rally.
All right.
Like,
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Imberengwa, if you actually go West Nicholson, the road that cuts through Imberengwa, right to that
Yeah.
other side, Ochera Mkumbo have been MPs since like the early 90s. That road has been basically like that forever, right?
All right. Yeah.
Why? Because you overestimate the actual influence that a member of parliament has when it actually comes down to local development on the ground. Lowacha channel, I think there was a story with
Yes, yeah.
dilapidated. Because members of parliament, very much again, and when I say and most of the times they're going to spend it in
Policy
Harare.
making.
They're not going to spend it in actual Culture Park way, you see.
Yeah,
Right?
okay.
They'll come on Culture Park once in a while to consult, to do police consultations,
Show face.
show face.
Show,
Yeah, and some of it is not showing face, it's the right thing. They come back if there's a bill that's controversial and go marriage bill, like
Yeah.
or something like that. But we are able to what I like
Shall we referendum?
notes,
Yeah.
back to Harare, right? And you can't blame them. That's what their job is. It's not really their actual, they can advocate for things.
Yeah.
Unless you want to say, I'll take my own money and build a school. Well, that's different.
All right.
But I think we, as like citizens, some of us, we lack education in these things, and we don't really know what these people are supposed to do or how far their power goes. And I'm just seeing a powerful person. So, and the other thing about campaigning and elections, you're supposed to sell people a dream, hope, a thread of hope, something. Ntengisela my dreams. And I will vote for you because there's like a shred of hope. Lo ngimaziyo uthi uhlala la eCountry Park and uzangenzelani sisokola sonke la kala magetsi yabona. It's like I'm being, in a way, I'm being selfless. Maybe we just need to be educated in these things. Is this person really saying they're going to do this, and is it like in their capability?
Yeah.
Are they able to?
Are they able to?
But if someone dangles you the good life, and
Yeah.
I'll just.
But there's also levels to it. I was thinking as you're speaking about this, how can this person possibly represent me? There's a case of Nhlanhla Lux in Soweto. This guy is not an active politician. He's got no, as far as he says, I doubt it, I think he's lying, but as far as he says, he's got no political ambition whatsoever. But on his own, until they formed, it was Soweto Parliament or something, and their mandate is just to represent the citizen of Soweto. From ugogo wakho ncabe mtshontshe ngasengelele ngamasela and ebusuku khona phana vayahamba bethu eLimpopo, like to fight for her, that kind of thing. Literally. That kind of thing. So I feel like that even as citizens we can do that, and these are people that, okay, I mean, to some extent I suppose they have some resources from well-wishers, but civic engagement and civic duty it's not for people that are moneyed or people that are qualified. Like so, where you stay, you can take part in
I feel like the only person who can actually speak on promises and has the authority and the actual resources to probably actually deliver as the president.
Okay,
you don't have to look at
yeah.
I think it's deplorable that you're living in a place that doesn't have electricity, that doesn't have water, that doesn't have proper sewer systems. I'm pledging Uti in the next year or two, we're going to fix all of that. If he says that, that's actually someone who actually has the authority, the capacity to change. But a member of parliament in of themselves, they don't have it. It's not actually within their it's not within their job description. All they can do is advocate.
Yeah, that's true.
That's where it ends.
All right, guys, let's talk about foreign policy a bit. One thing I've noticed is Russia's involvement in African affairs. I mean, I'll share my personal opinion on that in a bit. But I was just thinking it's become so intense that it's almost uniting ANC and EFF in some regard.
Well, you see, in Russia and Ukraine war, personally, the way I see it, actually, it's quite sad, right? We, a lot of African countries, and we really cannot ignore the facts, right? A lot of African countries, especially Zimbabwe, pre-independence, right?
Yeah.
Russia actually helped us with a lot of resources.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it was strategy, mobilization, training, actual guns, whatever we needed, right? Trained officers, literally, guerrillas, and a lot of them were trained, right? Russia, China, they contributed in that in actually us getting independence. But that wasn't Russia. It was the USSR, right? It was United Soviet.
All right.
Whatever, right? You know what that actually included? That included the current Russia that it is. It included Ukraine. It included Georgia. It included Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, all of those things. All of those now independent states were part of the USSR, right?
Yeah.
So now, in a sense, this is what I'm saying, right? Part of the support we got pre-independence actually came from a territory now we claim to be Ukraine. So this is technically two former allies of ours fighting. If we're going to use it in the perspective of
I get what you're saying.
We are supporting Russia because they assisted us pre-independence. Ukraine, Russia, it was part of the USSR.
I did not know that.
Right. So now that it becomes complicated now in terms
of but I mean, it's more than that. It's also to do with NATO involvement as well.
No. I get that part, but I'm saying if we're saying we are supporting Russia because we have a history with Russia, right? Ukraine is actually part of that history. The problem now is with Ukraine now we're treating it as if they've never been our friends before.
Oh, okay. All right. No, fair enough. Yeah.
Right. They were actually part of the group of people that were our friends. So on some level, I think being neutral might be right? But at the same time, I think I'll give you an example. If there was a conflict between the USA and Mexico, right? While of course it's Kachana, right? The problem now becomes it's now a question of power now, right? The USSR, Russia, is way more powerful than Ukraine, right? This conflict is just too one-sided, right? Ukraine, the reason why they are fighting is because this thing is happening in their backyard. Otherwise, if it wasn't, they would have no reason to attack Russia, whatsoever. Why? Because it's just stupid. Why would you invade? So we you then look at destruction of property, you look at casualties, you look at deaths, you look at and I know when Cyril Ramaphosa actually went to and this delegation of other African leaders when they went to Russia I think some 2 months ago or something like that, right? Them sort of talking about trade with Russia supplies wheat everywhere, and Africa now we have a problem with bread prices and things like that. You guys should need to resolve this conflict. There's also the question of increase in fuel prices, right? Increase in fuel prices. The minute fuel goes up, everything goes up, right? Because logistics, for us to transport things like that, right? I think it's kind of a mood kind of thing, right? It's just focus on deaths and casualties and just the amount of misery in Ukraine right now is just in a really bad shape. Right? The number of cities and towns that have been destroyed by this thing, right? So this thing should end. It should end at some point. The how part party manje.
Yeah.
If it was easy, when the
I
answers
understand something, like maybe there's someone out there like who's not really like following, and so us as Zimbabweans, which side we've taken Russia's side?
No. Like
we're neutral.
No, what I'm saying is don't say us as Zimbabwe.
Yeah, it's a
good men.
Yeah, it's a political thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because
The
the position of
government-
Zimbabweans really right at the end of the day, I think the average Zimbabwean, it's not like they're ignorant of the war. It's just one of those things like I think there is a feeling that we don't have a bone in this fight. Like by bone here, I'm saying one, most people don't know why the conflict actually is there.
Exactly, yeah.
Two, most people actually don't have like I see with like look at we're following the conflict every day with like unless of course like those news, right? With like what are the casualties, what are this, and then there's a problem with media, right? If you listen to over France 24, Labo, like your BPCs and whatever's like DSTV, right? That Western media really is saying Russia is wrong, right? You go to Al Jazeera also will give some sort of like a fair kind of assessment of the situation. If Ukraine does something, dodgy, they will say that no, Ukraine, I think they did something really questionable. I think there was a bombing in Crimea or something like that some months ago, and they were like, I know this is kind of like a low blow, right? And then there's ZPC. ZPC really, like Ukraine really like is being used by the.
But
is it not because of fear? I mean, you check how big Russia is, and there's kind of like Ukraine. If you were to choose sides, I'm just saying.
I know.
No, but if it was that simple, it would be over by now.
It's also about the right thing to do. You get my point.
It's kind of giving like those movies of there's the good guy and the bad guy, and the little guy is the good guy. Then
the underdog.
But I understand what you mean there. Right?
Yeah.
But that same attitude is the attitude maybe ends with a lot of African countries were posed with independence as well, right?
Yeah.
Because you think about it in terms of this. Do you know Winnie Mandela actually was listed as a terrorist until like 2006, like from I think 2006. Yeah. Right? Like because I'm a guerrilla fighters whether it was here in Zimbabwe or Mkonto or what. They were technically recognized as terrorists.
No.
Right? So in a sense, you have another country, maybe let me put a country like Brazil. They're not they fight, they don't have colonies, they were colony themselves at some point, right? If they were neutral, or in some of them were neutral in terms of Africans are fighting against white people. If we support Africans, it might affect our trade relations. So money is tool, right? But I'm saying if we have a culture of just like if something is wrong, it's just plain wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Whether we're afraid to I
saw like South Africans on Twitter were saying Russia ekhuluma ngokuthi South Africa will be an enemy, man.
Yeah.
We don't even have electricity.
And they're right.
So it's that type of thing.
Exactly.
You are the little guy. And if those people were to say namusha ziyakhala South Africa. We don't have electricity. Really, I take Ramaphosa. It's just in general. Some people will really like thinking like that. I'm so small. Let me take the side of the big guy.
Of the big guys.
To be safe.
Yeah. But globally, this is something actually very interesting. Globally, you actually find out the UK and the France, like we'll look in the UN Security Council, right? You have a situation where the US can basically do something really messed up. Right, like the invasion of Syria, or what. Even Qatar, the whole thing in Palestine and Israel, right? Some people will just be, even if they know this thing is wrong and it affects their deals and their whatever, they'll just decide to be quiet. Like China right now, it's not overtly. China has never come out and said Russia is right in invading Ukraine. They've just said, I know, like this conflict needs to be resolved.
Yeah.
Right. But if they go to Security Council, if they go to the Security Council and say, let's do ABCD. Either China will veto or they'll be neutral. They'll just keep quiet and be like, I know, like, why? Because it's their friend.
Yeah.
Another thing that bothers me is, like I was giving it a reference to like a movie, and like in the movies, countries will come together and try and work together towards to help the little guy out, but I don't understand what's happening with the situation.
Which is the point that I was gonna get at is there's certain personal interests that are involved in this thing. Yeah. It's much bigger than Ukraine is a little guy. as support. Russia is bigger. Like it dates back to even the Cold War.
Yeah.
You know, like it's as far, look, maybe I'm just a bit callous about it, but as far as the West is concerned, I've always thought that whatever issues they want to be involved in, as far as the rest of the world is concerned, is because they've got personal interest involved.
They have interest. And also, like, look, there we can guarantee at the end of the day, right, there's the Ukraine conflict there, right? If China comes out and says Russia is messing up, and they think that we should stand now, you know, like a much more harsh approach with sanctions and whatever, right? China also had Hong Kong that they grabbed, right? There was a whole debate about Hong Kong, does it still belong to, you know, is it neutral, is it what?
Yeah.
They grabbed it, right? They have Taiwan coming up,
Yeah.
right? There's all question of, is Taiwan an independent country? Is it part of China? Is it what? And so when they can't outrightly just come out and blame Russia, when they know that 5-10 years down the line, they might also just be grabbing some stuff too.
Yeah. Because
they will need Russia to keep quiet about it.
Because Russia, we can't deny they're powerful.
They are, but I mean,
powerful.
USA is just as powerful. Like it's just two big people fighting each other. Yeah, and watching is African. When elephants fight, the grass gets hurt.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, well, so I don't know. I think my personal opinion on this, it has to be it's a bit biased. It goes back to even his Curtis Mpini, Ngangazala, of course, 1980. But it's whenever I see the West being involved in issues like this, it's giving colonialism in the sense that they've appointed themselves as morality police. Yeah. They're the prefects of Umhlaba. Yeah. So I'm like, no, but you guys still need to account for slavery, and they've not done that. They've shown no intention of doing it.
Yeah.
The only person that I've seen who's tried to fight it is the Democratic one of the Democratic nominees for the election, who said no, we're gonna give black people. I can't remember what number it was, in the billions, as well within the billions.
Yeah.
With compensation for slaves.
Yeah, but
I'm like, also that's spinning,
US,
like,
right? Like at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you know, the other thing is someone who's lived in the US now it's time to sneak in the Harvard now.
Yeah. Sure.
This is the time, right? Like I'll tell you this. Like Republicans and Democrats, they may have differences locally on, you know, how many sugars to put in a tea, or like, you know, how many.
What is a woman?
You know, that's just like that's just a sideshow. On foreign policy, they're always united. On foreign policy, there may be differences, of course. Yeah, there may be different. Some politicians will have some dissenting opinions about this. This.
Yeah,
but when it comes to U.S. foreign policy, right? Like it's always, you know, Republicans right now on the Ukraine issue, whether a Democrat or a Republican, they're more or less united on it, right? And when it comes to, you mentioned something about proxy wars, right?
Yeah.
Our in Zimbabwe, like our war of independence was actually technically a proxy war.
Yeah.
Russia was supporting the guerrillas.
Yeah.
The Americans and the British were supporting the Rhodesians.
Yeah.
In SA, right? Even in what you call it, with apartheid South Africa being under sanctions and everything, right? Apartheid South Africa was actually seen as a way for the West to actually prevent communism spreading in Africa. There was war in Angola. There was Namibia, right? Apartheid South Africa was heavily involved in all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Was Apartheid South Africa doing everything wrong? Absolutely. But they actually they basically overlooked the racism and the oppression of black people because they wanted to contain Russia and its influence.
Yeah.
Right? Now we're looking at the
enemy
same
of
thing.
communism.
Exactly. Now we're looking at the same thing. Now Ukraine is in between NATO and Russia, and Russia is basically saying, well, we cannot have a neighbor of ours that's aligned to NATO in any form of way, or the European Union or whatever. And should that happen, we're going to destroy this place first before we get a neighbor that's hostile to us.
Yeah.
Right? And are they doing that? It's another proxy war. So I'm a proxy war until you know, but like it's quite sad, honestly, to be honest, that like, you know, I mean, personally, the way I see it is just the loss of life with all these conflicts, right? It's avoidable. It's all avoidable, right? And the minute you get to a place where people can't agree and they have to start shooting each other, like a lot of them.
It kind of sounds a bit barbaric. It's kind of like the old ways. These days you think people can, I don't know, talk it out, something, negotiate, but like it's killing. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like, well, it's funny. I had a weird thought when you guys were talking about this. I was thinking of Avengers, like Thanos.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I think about, like when I first watched, I never understood. But sometimes when I think about it, I understood why he wanted to wipe out afterwards. Well, probably the only species that willingly kills each other.
Yeah,
In
we
jail,
do.
like without like maliciously, without. It's not even about the need of survival or anything. We're just like,
Yeah.
you know what? When I'm doing, I don't go out with what you're doing these days. Oh, Khan.
Time is up.
Your time is up. But anyway, look, I suppose we now need to wrap up the conversation about politics. Yeah, I hope this is a cool mangawe, that is. Yeah. Now we can give people an understanding of you and what exactly you
Wanna talk
do.
about Harvard.
We learned that as well. Did you learn with Zach?
Well, Zach was like what? Zach was, he never actually graduated. He didn't graduate. He was given a degree.
Yeah.
After when was it, like 2017?
Yeah.
But like, no, he was like many years older than us.
Oh.
I am going to be the blonde in this conversation, but how do you even get into Harvard?
Oh yes, yeah. Now,
It's so
yeah.
I don't know, like
Mhm.
Yeah, no,
it's possible black child of Zimbabwe.
It's possible now. We have like,
yeah, like I think it's well with me, I think the journey actually was quite I wouldn't say it was straightforward, but like in retrospect it made sense, right?
Alright,
It's
yeah.
like I actually went to Klati High. That's where I did my O level.
Mm.
I got a solid number of A's there. I went to
So
Bopoma.
humble.
Solid
It
number
was
of
me.
A's.
Right, I went to Bopoma High School.
yeah.
I got a solid number of points there, and I was in junior parliament. I was a national junior chess champion at the time.
Yeah.
Like my extracurriculars and my academics were just spot on.
All right. Yeah.
So, but then I think while that is the case, there was a program called USAP, United States Student Achievers Program. It was at the time it was funded by the US Embassy, and I mean it's existed like since like the 90s, and it's funded by this really nice lady called Rebecca Mano. And what they basically do is that they essentially sponsor Zimbabwean kids to apply. And it's not like sponsor really, but like, you know, like most people who have like really good grades and grades,
Yeah.
extracurricular things they're doing, whether it's sports or whatever, you can technically just apply to any American college you want and you can get an acceptance letter easily and a scholarship, right? But the problem is that the process of actually applying to your colleges is actually expensive, right? You have to, at the time, you have to write my SATs, and my SATs on themselves, probably at the time, I think, you have to write SAT 1, that's maybe about $200 and something, and then you have to write a subject test, SAT 2s, maybe 3 subjects, like, each would be like, I think 150 or 200 or something. The whole bill can get to that like $1,000, right?
Yeah.
And then for you to actually do those exams, they're not like complicated. I think right now, as a nursing and likes or going abroad, they're writing A-Lets, right?
Yeah.
Like SATs are kind of similar to A-Lets, but then there's not just the English part, there's the maths part as well, and then the subject tests are like whether it's maths, chemistry, physics, whatever, right? Actually preparing for those exams not themselves, because they're not the same as exams here. You probably need a tutor, you need someone to actually help you really do the content, in the sense the area of work, right? So that whole thing can easily maybe bring the bill up to like $1,005 to $2,000. The average Zimbabwean does not have that much.
Yeah,
money,
that is true.
right? And also, it's not just about the average Zimbabwean. It's like one of those things when you are like doing your A levels and you go and tell your parents, I need $2,000 to be able to prepare to apply for, college, placements at like US colleges. No parent would give you that money because sometimes they don't know anyone who has done it before.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like $2,000, like why would you do this, right? It's only people who have family members who have done it before, right?
Yeah. They know
that
it's
like
possible.
the parents just know, okay, like we're doing the SAT thing again, let's just pay for it and we do it, right? So what basically the USAP program does, that it just democratizes that process of applying to American colleges, right?
Yeah.
And like a lot of people I know from Bopoma High School, even after me, like have applied to American colleges. Even when I actually went there, I was the only Zimbabwean who went there. But at the time, there were about 30-something people from that program, and then hundreds more outside that program.
Yeah.
So the only problem is applying to American colleges just felt like it's a thing for the rich.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So even if people have money, and are qualified and probably would get into those Stanfords and the MITs and whatnots, money was just going to be the barrier. So what USAT did was just basically, it just removed the barrier of money. We're going to give you resources to actually apply.
Yeah.
And then, that's how I applied, right? I applied, got into a couple colleges and then got into Harvard. But yeah, like it's actually quite difficult. It's rigorous. It takes time. You have to know what you're doing. But prominently, if you don't know what you're doing, right? Actually, a friend of mine, we're in the same class in Bopoma. We did it first, right? And then he was like, like my friends, like I have 2-3 friends who did this whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think at the time they had a department here, education here, their offices at the basement here, the public library, right? And it's in a sequence, right? Like some people are like, what are these guys doing? Like, this doesn't make sense. When we got in, someone was like, no, like, let me just, since I'm going to start doing my program, and asked, but like, I'm just going to just go and apply, just like those guys did.
Yeah.
You applied and you got a scholarship the following year, right?
Right.
So, and this was the US Embassy thing, like, this is like that because he had seen us do it and he knew how it's done and what has to be done. So yeah, it's quite rigorous, I think. Okay. But I also didn't really understand just how competitive it is to get places in Ivy Leagues until I actually got to the US. That's when you're like, oh wow, actually it's way more competitive than I thought. Yeah. Because a lot of students in the US, when they apply to colleges, some of Harvard and the likes are some of their dream colleges. For me, I wouldn't say it was my dream. It's a dream that caught on. And someone was like, yeah, dude, like your grades, like you can totally do this. I was like, yeah, well, okay, let's try it. Let's see. And then when I got there, it really hit like, oh, like I'm actually going to this place. Mm-hmm. And then when I got there, it even hit more like, oh wow, like
there's thousands more kids.
This is actually what it's like.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's actually a big deal. But at the time, like really, like in the US, some kids like literally they started like age 10, like parents are already making sure that their grades are on point. Mm-hmm. If they need to learn extracurricular activities, whether it's piano, playing tennis, like they're rigorous, they'll get you mentors, they'll get you tutors, they'll get you all of that.
Yeah,
exactly. Right. Yeah, do this. Yeah, but like with us, it was never like that. Like those things were already done, right? And then it was just like, oh yeah, like you can actually, oh wait, like your grades and your things look great. You can actually go. You can actually apply and go. But for some people, like being coached to, go to those Ivy Leagues.
So is it really like Hogwarts?
Well, actually, that's a
good question. Yeah.
So we had when you're freshman year, right? Like you actually live in this thing called the Yard, right? It's like all the freshmen. That's like the center. That's like the center of Harvard in a sense, right? And the dining hall is called Annenberg, right? You can actually look this up, I swear. Yeah. The thing literally looks like the Hogwarts dining hall, like or like spot on. Like it's always been like that.
I've always
it
thought
looks
like Harvard.
Exactly like it's just search Annenberg Harvard, right? It looks exactly like it. It's like it's funny actually.
Imagine also it's in Columbus. Not that same Columbus.
But all right, cool, interesting. So let's just fast forward a bit. To Tuvel. All right, that's what you have going right now. What since Akurima is pitch deck, like what was your needs assessment like when you saw it? Because by the banning, I mean I'm thinking from a point of view, like there's so many people with taxes in town, it's name him what stopped? Yes, when you rain taxis, I remember we saw that. So what stopped you from saying, you know what, let me cover this $5,000 ngithenge umchova uzabuchaya usiye Country Park uthola abantu bama-rally, and then you're like, no, let's introduce something called smart commuting.
So I mean, like the way it is, I mean with Tuvel, I think it has evolved over time, like from what I actually thought it was going to be the first time I thought about the idea, and up to what it is now, it's probably like has changed and it's going to keep changing, right? Part of what sort of like for example, I'll tell you, like when I was going to Bokma, like Kalenkulman, right? 5 Opulate, right? When I was going to school from Opulate to Bokma High School, there's no direct transport. Like Lumcheveti Square and sometimes Yakuza, like, and because of Irutian Corner, like if you actually get on a minibus or a bus, right? Like they have to wait for it to fill up, right? So I was actually like almost late, like quite a lot, right? Yeah. And sometimes you are getting saying you walk in Ambahama and things like that. But like part of it is that, like, I think when I was now in college and I was really thinking about, what are the problems back home that I faced that I believe I can actually solve. Transport really stuck out to me because I remember, dude, like I was deputy boy at Popoma, right? And the day of it that I became a deputy boy, I was given the pretty nice blazer. I was like, and the teachers laughed. They're like, "Yo, man, like, what is this, right?"
Yeah.
But like, I think it's just symptomatic of the fact that when I think now they understood where we like, so like transport. I think we also had some people and I think also I'm a Peugeot. I'm a
544.
Like, done my like, people. I swear, like, I'm not even making this up, right? And
I've never seen an actual car like that.
2009, 2010. It's not far back, right? No, it's not far back.
Okay.
But it was.
I've never seen that car
this
before in my
way-
life.
This way was the one. Yeah. This way was the only.
No, my
route
great
at the
grandparents
time.
had a car like that. No, for real. Yeah, no, I've seen one. I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, right. So like Karen's answer, they've replaced it. So I'm on their feet now. But like literally, it was literally like that. I don't know what kind of an idea. Sometimes it goes like that. So to me, it was like transport is just transport and logistics. Really, there's no functional economy, right, anywhere in the world that can operate without a functioning public transport system and a functioning transport system, right? Because transport is what gets everything done, right? You have to minimize the amount of productive time that people lose when they're leaving from home to work. You have to minimize the amount of time that you spend and resources you spend moving goods and services around the country, right? So what Zimbabwe needs, of course, our economy cannot function if NRZ is not working, right? Like, it cannot function if we don't have like a very efficient transit system. It cannot work if we don't have efficient, smooth, functioning infrastructure, roads, bridges, and things like that. Those things have to be there for things to actually happen.
All right.
Right. And that's just like the premise that I walked into this with, right? And public transit especially, right? If you talk about Kares, like Ansudama SDGs, right? SDG, I think it's SDG 30, SDG 11, right? The one on smart communities, smart resilient cities, right? It really speaks to that like in urban areas, public transit, has to be efficient for people to actually really either, work to move goods around. And cities, if you look at rural urban migration over the last 50 years or something, people are flocking into cities like en masse globally, right? And I remember like when I actually landed like in Boston when I was going to university, right? Dude, things looked so efficient, but of course, like over time, I also got to start hating it because really it wasn't as efficient as I thought it was. But you need functioning trains, you need a functioning transit system, buses. You need, if for us like summer mini buses and whatever, we need that functionality. We need ambulances that actually work and that respond to things on time, right? All of those things are part of just making cities more sustainable and workable. So too, I think when we started it off, like it was mostly like a ticketing thing for combis. It was ticketing app for combis, right? And we built that, and then we were ready to launch that in 2020, right? And I came to Zim. I remember I came to Zim March, like right before COVID. This was maybe a couple of weeks before. She actually had COVID, right? And COVID happened, right? And the first thing that happened was that they banned minibuses. That was the first reaction by government. Now we have an app with a product, but we don't have any customers because our customers have been banned, right? And at the time it was like quite simple. You basically, if you're going somewhere, you pay with your EcoCash using the app for that, right? Quite straightforward, right? And you can track if there's a combi moving from here, like and how many minutes, things like that, right? That whole thing just like blew up. COVID just stole about 2 years of our progress, honestly. When it came back, right, combis obviously are still part of what the full Tuval app and what it does just does so much. But what we then figured was post-COVID, we're like, okay, look, what's a very good way of, because now we're talking business and startups, right? Like with most startups, you need an MVP, which is a minimum viable product, but you need to actually do business. You need something that you're doing that makes you money, that generates revenue. And we figured, okay, so what are the problems that are faced by the public transport system, right? Of course, there's so many problems, man, right? Like from fuel costs, but the one that stuck out for us, especially post-COVID, especially combis and buses and whatever's and taxis, right? They're not operating for 2 years. Some people sold their combis. Some people, did all of these whatever's, right? But when the system started hitting back, right, they started to realize that like a lot of public transport owners needed capital and cash to start up their businesses, right? But because they're considered as informal businesses, banks actually do not give them money. They don't give them loans. They don't give them any sort of financing, any sort of support, right? Okay, yeah, there's this whole thing, I'm up, whatever. But the biggest problem that operators are facing is lack of access to capital, right, from banks. So how do we solve that problem whilst we're still able to give our operators and commuters technology that they need to use? The idea now is asset financing, inter-asset financing. That's what Tuvo is.
Yeah.
So what you basically do is that you give the operators the apps and the tools that they need to operate and whatever. But you then, instead of giving them cars, right, you essentially say, okay, look, we're going to purchase a full vehicle for you, register at Tuvo, do all of that part, right? We're not going to give you a loan of 6K or 7K, whatever. We're going to give you an actual car. You pay for that car over a period of 24 months while you're using our products and our services.
Okay.
So the driver gets the car, gets the app, and then they just operate. And then they pay for Motelana over time. That way you're able to make sure that like the actual problem that I'm operators, right? Yeah, figure out, okay, what's your problem? You're consultant, I know like cancel your swoper, which is part of the reason why you give you a fully registered car that doesn't have any issues.
Yeah.
You can say, I know like I struggle finding customers. But those are real problems, that's true. But the one problem that will move the public transport operator from just a conversation to them following you around is if you say, okay, look, I'll give you a car.
Yeah.
Changes the conversation altogether.
Yeah.
Why? Because you're actually solving a problem that they have.
Yeah.
It's how do I get, if I'm a driver, how do I actually get my own car, right? And if I'm an operator of the small fleet, how do I move from 3 cars to 10 cars?
All right.
And that is a problem that is the most painful for them. So the idea now is you get them not just any car, you get them energy efficient cars like hybrids and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. It's good for the environment. They reduce the amount of fuel consumption that cars consume. And then on top of that, it actually helps them on the financing side of public transport. So it's sort of like killing a couple of SDGs, like there's SDG 8, development, there's SDG 12. And then obviously, I think as we go forth, the idea is there are so many other issues with transportation in general. We know that the public transport everywhere in Africa, like coming up, it's incredibly hostile against women. Mm-hmm. The harassment, all kinds of funny things happen there, right? Mm-hmm. And women can probably mostly speak to this more than I can. But the idea is to actually start to get more women driving and operating public transport. And part of the reason why Abafas, like, they get ill-treated is because how many times have you seen a woman driving a combi or a woman driving a taxi, right? Like,
no, I only know Melinda.
Yeah, but right. So the idea now is also to look at I think another SDG as well on gender, and just try to make sure that as our economy grows, we start having a much more comprehensive gender balance when it comes down to ownership and use of public transit. And women use public transport almost every day as much as men do.
Yeah. All right. Now, in closing, I wanted to pick your brain on something. Your thoughts about the future, particularly. I mean, you like you say, you're a global citizen. You've lived in places where there's a subway system. In the UK, we're on the tube.
There's a tube.
Now, it coincides with the rhetoric of Nelson Chamisa. I'm not sure if he's still saying it now. Spaghetti roads, bullet trains, and so on. Look. Is happening in other countries. I mean, the levels of development are very, very far. To be honest, I think our priority right now wouldn't be transport. We're still trying to feed our people. But what do you see for us in terms of the transport sector? Going forward, your personal business aside, as Zimbabwe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like absolutely. Like one of the things that we need to do, we need to revamp NRZ. Like that's just like a no-brainer.
Okay.
I think that like if there is a politician right now who is advocating for really focusing on revamping our train infrastructure, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's bringing in new trains, railway line, right, and really get it to be more sophisticated, right? Like in the cities, we need actual trains, right? We need actual proper trains, right? Whether we're going to build an underground systems or they're going to be overland, right? Whatever it is, Kenya and Tanzania did it, and they came up with some partnership with China, and like they built a new sort of like rail system for transporting goods and services. But we need that; it's cheaper, right? That's the thing. And for transport in general, I believe that that's the direction we need to be focusing on. On railway line, it needs to come back like without like this.
Do you know
Right.
how right now it's embarrassing to use a train? But look at the how train. It's not.
Yeah,
To
yeah,
say
Yeah.
People like, happy.
like no, very.
But yeah,
As someone who's actually
I
worked
forgot
at
South Africa.
NRZ.
Really how train.
Look how train.
Yeah.
I worked at NRZ for like a year, and the machinery is outdated. I think John Roos. Like it is so old, and everything is just always breaking down. Every single day you have a fault twice in one place. It's just The
We
trade.
need to, and how we're
Needs to
going to
come
do
back.
that right now, that's a question for experts, right? But like obviously, like whether it has to be NRZ or it has to be a different company, it has to be multiple different companies. That's we can sort of like spend the whole day debating on what works the most.
Yeah.
But like we really need to revamp our infrastructure. Like even Wonky Konoko, what problem like Chinese was saying with spaghetti roads and what. Yeah, I think his head is in the right place. We need functioning roads, right? In cities, even like trunk roads, like Apuma cities and things like that. Like we really need to sort out our infrastructure. It's just how we get trade going, right? Because whether Agabu is currently there's like 100 trucks that have to go and pick up coal in Wange and drive all the way to Harare. It doesn't make sense, right?
It does not
You
make
need-
sense at all.
We need our trains back.
Yeah.
We absolutely need them. And like I cannot stress just how that really changes the way we.
Yeah, I mean, over and above industry, Zimbabwe is a mainly agrarian economy. If I'm not mistaken, this year we probably broke a world record, like in terms of exporting tobacco.
It depends on what's coming.
Yeah, exactly. But we are a tobacco producer of note. I think a functioning trade infrastructure would aid us more.
It helps everything. It
Yeah,
helps because
yeah.
I mean, if you actually think, if you really maybe it's only 10 dialogue, so I'll just run with that.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you go to Belmont, right, industrial area, Belmont, Kelvin, all of that, you can actually see that they used to be railway
Yes,
networks
yeah,
connecting,
yeah.
like
All these
network going to
factories,
pick up
yes.
in National Foods or wherever, right? Those goods were never actually transported by trucks. They're transported, the train just comes, you load up your maize, you load up your whatever, or it's bringing maize to the factory, or it's bringing whatever goods
Yes.
they are, right? And the honest truth is it's just significantly cheaper than actually piling up
Gonyet.
Amakonyet and things like that. And also the other thing is this, we are a net importer, we're an actual importer of fuel, diesel and petrol.
Yeah.
Sorting out NRZ and things like that will actually reduce the amount of, reduce our trade deficit in a sense, like the amount of fuel that we have to get from, we have to import. Like summer prices of things went up when this whole Russia-Ukraine thing went, primarily because we're heavily dependent on fuel that we import, right? And sorting out our infrastructure problems, in a sense, will in the long run reduce the amount of, certain goods that we import in order to get, to transport people and services around goods and services around the country.
All right, yeah.
Yeah.
When you're speaking about piling up coins, I remember, look, I once did this as a case study with data and geography, but I've always thought that the reason why there's so many potholes in the streets is because there's vehicles that drive it that are not supposed to be there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what you say, non-stop because in the 18-wheelers carrying I don't know how many tons of steel. It's not supposed to be the case.
Perfect example is just the road to Victoria Falls.
Yeah,
There's a lot of stuff that moves from different parts of the country to and from Hwange, right? And obviously, like some other people like export goods to Zambia and things like that, and then move via China to every force, right? The road is in, like I was actually dropping
It's horrible,
it's bad, right? And part of it is because there's like, you literally are competing for space with like all these trucks the whole way, right? How is the road not going to be bad if you're not repairing it and you have that much traffic? Over time, the road is going to look the way it looks.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. I know. That's just about. I'm not sure if Melinda's got something to say.
No, I don't have it. Do you guys know the Rovos train?
What's that?
You don't know the Rovos train?
No. What's what?
Yo, it's this.
No.
I know a close enough. It's this beautiful train, and I told you I worked it, and I was in Hwange.
Yeah.
So it'll pass sometimes. It's from, I don't know if it will be coming from Namibia or something, going to SA.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Or is it the luxury thing?
It is so.
I don't know. I think I've seen a video.
The trains like that in Africa.
It's like a luxury train.
Do you know there's a
That's
bar,
tourism.
there's a restaurant,
So it's like $5,000 a trip. It takes you from
live
wherever.
music.
Yeah.
It is you. Anyway,
Just
what I wanted.
no.
Like I am manifesting before I die. I need to take a trip. So
On
it'll
that,
pass by.
alright.
The white people will be passing by.
That's
You
the
ask the
white
white
people.
hungry.
Hey, hi.
Nobody's
Alright,
going to stop.
You have to look hungry in front of white people.
I will.
If you know, 20 money, but yeah.
Do you know how I knew Uti,
Yeah.
like you have to be hungry in front of white people? Even the monkeys knew. I told them we were by TJ and as they ignore us, we'll be there every single day.
That's so
We are
funny.
in jail
That is
every
so
day.
funny.
Until now, I'll be starting work at 8
Yeah.
and be ending at 4. And
Yeah.
every single day I'm saying in Duang, and I say man, let the white people come.
Yeah.
Lazo, Venezuela,
They look alive. Yeah.
look alive, look alive.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Yeah,
It's your time to shine.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
never think this time.
Yeah, I think of
Yeah, that's just funny.
Yeah, we indeed have run out of time, but yeah, it's been an awesome episode with Hope. Yeah, if perchance, I know that the odds are very, very slim, but if perchance the current Minister of Transport is watching this podcast, I think you heard some very insightful views coming from Hope and ourselves. Yeah, please run with them. You know, it's another 5 years. You know, as long as I'm gonna something, you know. Yeah. But leave a like, comment, share, subscribe if you're not subscribed. Yeah. Chengise inja yangini umakhelwane podcast le. Yeah, otherwise for now.
Bye.
We out. Thank you.